Imagine being stranded in the vast emptiness of a desert, with no water to drink, no shade to hide under, and the relentless sun beating down like an unforgiving furnace. Now, imagine surviving that ordeal for 9 whole days, without a single drop of water to sustain you. This is not fiction. It is the astonishing true story that shook rescue teams and survival experts to their core. The man at the center of this ordeal was an experienced traveler, familiar with the desert's harsh moods. His name, withheld by authorities, is known only in classified reports. He set out on a routine trek across an unforgiving stretch of desert terrain, miles away from the nearest town or highway. What was meant to be a simple journey turned into a nightmare when his vehicle broke down in the middle of nowhere. With no cell signal and temperatures climbing above 110 degrees Fahrenheit by day, he became a lone figure swallowed by the endless dunes. Survival experts agree that a human typically cannot endure more than 3 days without water. Our bodies are mostly water, about 60%, and rely on it to regulate temperature, maintain blood volume, and keep vital organs functioning. Losing even a few percent of body water can cause dizziness, confusion, and rapid deterioration. Yet he survived 3 times that limit. How? What forces of nature and human will converge to pull him through? Try imagining what it's like to go without water for 1 full summer day. Parched, weak, and desperate. Now multiply that feeling 9 times over. Each day, his body fought dehydration. His skin blistered and cracked under the sun's glare. His lips and tongue dried out, his vision blurred. Night brought some relief as temperatures dropped, but the cold was a new enemy, sapping his strength in silence. At the end of the 2nd day, he began to experience hallucinations, visions that rescue teams later described as a typical symptom of severe dehydration and heat exhaustion. His mind wavered between clarity and confusion, yet he refused to give in to despair. The desert was relentless, but so was his will to survive. Could you survive the mental torment of seeing mirages that vanish every time you reach for them? The human brain craves water, but it also craves hope. In his case, hope was a faint memory of the distant road, the sound of a passing plane, the cool shade of a lone cactus. These fragments kept him moving, step by agonizing step. By the 3rd day, his skin was sunburned beyond recognition, blistered and peeling. His heart rate soared as his body struggled to cool itself with no moisture to sweat. Normally, the kidneys would conserve water by concentrating urine, but dehydration overwhelmed this mechanism. His urine became dark and scant, a crimson warning sign of impending organ failure. Despite the cruel conditions, he managed to find a shallow depression in the sand, a natural catchment where rare dew settled during the cold desert nights. By morning, small beads of moisture glistened on the surface. Using scraps of fabric torn from his shirt, he carefully collected these tiny droplets. It was not much, but it was enough to delay the inevitable. This act of relentless improvisation was critical. Rescuers later praised his ingenuity, noting how small decisions like this can change the course of survival. In extreme conditions, even the tiniest sip can mean the difference between life and death. Have you ever tried catching dew on a cold morning? It's a slow, tedious process, and it yields barely enough to wet your lips. Yet, for him, it was a lifeline. By the 5th day, his body was severely weakened. Muscle cramps, dizziness, and nausea plagued him. Yet, he pressed on, knowing that help might come. He left faint signs along the way, broken branches, arrows scratched into rocks, hoping a search party would find these clues. The local search and rescue teams, alerted by his family after he failed to return, mobilized quickly. They combed the desert using drones, helicopters, and trained dogs. The scale of the search was massive, covering hundreds of square miles. But the desert's vastness was as much an enemy as the sun. Experts on survival note that the average person lost in desert conditions faces a grim statistic: 90% chance of fatality within 48 hours without water. Yet, this man defied those odds with a combination of endurance, presence of mind, and a touch of luck. Could you imagine walking through a desert for days, your body screaming for water, your mind clouded by heat stroke, your feet blistered and bleeding? And still, you keep moving forward. On the 7th day, a rescue helicopter spotted a faint waving figure near a cluster of rocks. The man was barely conscious, skin dry and cracked, eyes sunken deep into his skull. Medics rushed to his side, administering fluids and cooling treatments. His vital signs were dangerously low, but he was alive. The medical team involved in his recovery described his condition as miraculous. They explained that while the human body can survive longer without food, water is critical. The brain can only last minutes without oxygen, but dehydration slowly starves the organs, causing a cascade of failures. In this case, the patient's strong prior health and sheer willpower were decisive. His recovery was slow and painful. Doctors monitored kidney function, heart rhythm, and nerve damage. He required weeks of hospitalization and physical therapy. Yet, the story of his survival spread quickly, inspiring both awe and questions. What exactly allowed him to endure when so many others perish? Was it genetics, mental strength, the faint dew? Or was it something else? Something we have yet to understand fully about the limits of human resilience. Survival specialists emphasize that knowledge is the first line of defense. Understanding your environment, carrying emergency supplies, and staying calm under pressure can save lives. In this case, the man's ability to improvise and adapt under extreme stress was key. He never carried much water, trusting the short journey would be uneventful. That assumption nearly cost him his life. His experience serves as a stark warning. Deserts do not forgive mistakes. Have you ever considered how long you could last without water, even in your backyard? The human body is fragile, but it is also capable of astonishing endurance when pushed to the edge. The rescue agencies involved have since updated their protocols. They emphasize immediate search efforts and encourage travelers to carry more supplies than they think necessary. This case also highlighted the importance of mental resilience, how staying focused and hopeful can extend survival time. His story remains a chilling reminder of nature's power and human vulnerability. It also raises questions about future desert survival as climate change expands arid zones worldwide. How prepared are we for such conditions? And what can we learn from those who have walked the edge of death and returned? Every moment without water in the desert is a battle against time. His 9-day ordeal was a triumph of human will, but also a cautionary tale. It reveals how thin the line is between survival and tragedy. Every day I uncover true survival facts, stories that warn you and stories that inspire. Subscribe so you don't miss the next investigation, and leave a comment. It helps this channel survive. Stay curious. See you tomorrow.